Adam Gase here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Coach?
Great. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing fine. First up here, okay, because you know I'm a Michigan Wolverine, Coach, and the owner of your team has his name emblazoned all over that campus. How does somebody who's born in Ypsilanti, Michigan, wind up at Michigan State? How does that happen, Coach?
Well, I was seeking higher education, so I went to Michigan State.
And nice.
Which you would love, Rich. The only thing I have in my office really is I have a Dolphins helmet. I have a Michigan State helmet, which Mr. Ross loves when he walks in here. I usually try to wear Michigan State apparel as much as possible when he comes into the building.
Now, I mean, the boss is cool with that, Adam. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
here.
he loves it because it gets everything going. He's holding last year over my head pretty good though.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was at least one turning of the worm for the Michigan program that happened last year. But you did wind up on the staff of Nick Saban while he was there, correct? That's where you sort of got your coaching start in a way.
Yeah, I was a student assistant there for my entire college time, 4 years, and that's really how I got involved in this sport, and just so much that I learned was in those 4 years, and then being able to follow Nick to LSU. That was 3 more years of, I always looked at it as that was getting a PhD in coaching.
Well, how much Saban is in you, Coach?
I think a lot of the situation and organizational things that I learned from him have really helped me in the current job I have right now. I don't think if I would have seen a lot of the things that occurred and heard him teach the way that he teaches situational football to our players, I think that would have been a big chunk that I missed out on. And I was lucky. I was in the right place, right time.
And then when it came time for you to join the ranks of the National Football League, if I'm not mistaken, the first man who gave you that in is the best man of Tom Izzo's from back in the day in Mariucci, my guy from Game Day Morning on the network. Is that true, Coach?
Correct. I had this little 6-month window there of a internship, and Mooch just got hired. And I don't know if you remember, it was late because it was after the Senior Bowl. That staff actually coached the Senior Bowl in Detroit, and then they fired Coach Morningwig after the Senior Bowl. And then Mooch got hired, and they were trying to kind of organize some things, and they needed a couple interns. So a guy named Bobby Merritt and myself were hired as 6-month interns to put all these point of attack tapes together for the draft, and that was really the end. And it was, hey, I have a chance to go back to Michigan, so if I don't make it, at least I'm not far from home.
Yeah, right. And what'd you learn from Mooch? So few people talk about what they've learned from Mooch, and so many people got their start thanks to Steve. I'd love to get something from you, what you saw watching Mariucci work up close as a coach in the NFL, Adam Gase.
I think it was the first time that I was around somebody that was as tight as he was with his coaching staff, and the way that he interacted with the players and the way that he was able to have great relationships with players, but at the same time still be an authority figure. He had a great way to balance that. And it was my first exposure to somebody where players loved that he was their head coach. And, he had a great way about how he interacted with everybody in the building, because you've been around him for a long time now, and you can't find anybody to say a bad word about him.
He's one of my favorite.
Everyone loves him, and they gravitate to him, and that was I would just see how he treated everybody great. He treated from the lowest I was an intern, and the fact that he knew who I was and where I was from and where I had come from, and he would talk to everybody, and it was you just felt like you were a part of it, and I that was something that I was so glad I experienced, because it's really helped me as my career's evolved and getting to this spot.
And now the spot being the Miami Dolphins. Adam Gase joining me here. So even though you went 10-6, you made the playoffs. What did you, now having 1 year as the head coach of a team in the National Football League, do you think of going into year 2 saying that you're going to focus better on this or need to focus on that? What's your adjustment going into year 2?
Our routine now as a coaching staff, we have a way better feel of how we can work together. Where that first year you're kind of going through the bumps in the road of, especially with me with the offense, of what my schedule is, how I have to jump in and out, and how we can kind of put game plans together. And same thing with the defense, my interaction with them and special teams. Everything's moving so fast, and it's just a nonstop process. And just now we have a really good feel of how that works. You know, there's not dead time. And that's the key to the entire NFL is when you start having those little dead windows where guys they're like, where are we going next? And you feel like you have no direction. That's where it gets, it crushes you, because there is no room for that. And you constantly have to keep moving. That's why when you hear guys talk about how many hours everything is, it's nonstop. You walk in the building to the time you leave, you just feel like you never stop.
Well, last year we spoke with Cameron Wake and Dominic Sue on this show, Coach Gase, and both of them said a major point of your season last year was when you started telling vets, take a seat, we're going to start using some guys that have earned the time based on the way that I'm seeing them practice and play, like Tony Lippett from Michigan State being one of those guys that you threw out there at corner. How difficult was that for you to do so quickly on in your head coaching career last year?
You know, when we first started our program, that was something that we had talked about from Mike Tannenbaum, Chris Greer, and myself, to where we weren't going to focus on where you were drafted, where you came from, whether you had been here, whether you came from somewhere else. So we really didn't care. We told everybody, hey, it's a clean slate. Whoever you are from this moment on, that's what we're going to evaluate. That's what we're going to judge off of. And a lot of guys took that and ran with it and jumped on that opportunity. Some guys, it took a little longer than others, and some guys ended up not being here because of it. And I think players appreciate that the best players play, and they know that there's the whole drafted first round, all those type of things are irrelevant here. We're about one thing, and that's doing everything we can to win. And you know, if you're not on that train, then they, you know, just let us know and we'll let you move on to somewhere else.
Well, the big question a lot of Dolphins fans have, Coach Gase, is will Tannehill have a similar set of parameters placed on him this year, that if he's not performing to a certain level at the quarterback position by weeks X, Y, or Z, that somebody else is going to get a chance? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence that Ryan's going to do exactly what we need him to do to be, you know, impact player for us. And, you know, Ryan puts himself in position with the way he works, the way that he studies on and off the field. He does all the little details right. And that's why you see usually the guys that end up moving in and out of the lineup, there's things behind the scenes that have occurred that has, you know, forced a hand, forced a move. And he puts himself in such a good position that my confidence level in him is so high. He's you know, you start putting guys in buckets of when it gets kind of thick and tough, and you know there's adversity. You know, he's in that bucket with a lot of other guys to where you know he's going to get the job done.
Well, what does he need to do, Coach? I mean, you know what an elite quarterback looks like. You've been right there hip to hip with Peyton Manning. What does Tannehill need to do right here?
Sometimes it's time in the system, time of, you know, the experience in the NFL. You know, I mean, we're talking about a guy going into his fifth year. You know, I mean, Matt Ryan got drafted in 2008, and 8 years later, he's an NFL MVP. You know, and his road wasn't as smooth as we remember last year. I mean, there were some ups, there were some downs. He kept battling, finding ways to compete, get better, learn from his experiences. That's what this profession's all about. It's when the adversity hits, how are you going to handle it, and how are you going to keep battling? And when everybody's down on you, are you just going to put your head down and crawl into a hole, or are you going to, keep pushing ahead and being the first guy through the wall?
Couple of minutes left with Adam Gase, Dolphins head coach here. So much made of Odell Beckham sitting up there in New York City, and you've got yourself a dynamic wide receiver from the same school, same cloth, it seems, that Jarvis Landry has been cut from down there in South Florida. It doesn't get nearly as much attention. That said, do you think Jarvis Landry sometimes needs to take the pill of the chill variety to try and maintain a composure, or you think this is the way he is and you're just going to let it fly here, Coach?
I love the way that Jarvis does everything. I love the way he plays in games and his intensity level, and guys feed off of the way that he plays. And occasionally when we get a personal foul post-touchdown, he knows that frustrates me slightly. I'd rather him not, lose his money on something that is very easily preventable for himself. But it's hard for me to want to change the way he plays when I love the way he plays, and I love his passion, and I love his intensity every day in and day out, and especially on Sundays he goes up a level which is unbelievable that actually happens because he's so intense at all the other times. And that's one of the things that we try to allow guys that in our program to be. We want them to be themselves. We don't want them to be somebody they're not. And but at the end of the day, everything is about what's best for the team when it comes to winning. And if we can prevent personal fouls, that's exactly what we want to make sure that we're doing. But at the same time, I don't want him to lose his intensity.
And what are you telling your team about the relaxed celebration rules, certainly in light of the fact that a 40-second clock is going to start the minute a touchdown is signaled by an official, and if there's no replay, that clock's going to tick, and somebody's got to kick an extra point within those 40 seconds that somebody also might be celebrating? What are you telling your team?
I'm not going to make a big deal about it because if that clock ever expires, they're going to have to deal with our special teams coach. So I'm a lot easier to deal with than our special teams coach because he'll be on the 15 on the numbers doing a lot of MFing. So I'm pretty sure that we will be inside the framework of the clock.
Okay, so you're just going to leave that up right there. Just leave that.
I think if I start addressing anything with my guys, it's just when it comes to something like that, it's our guys they'll do the right thing because they just know it's about winning, and we're not going to want to take penalties on something it's black and white. We know what the rule is. We have to adjust to what the rule is and make sure we handle it correctly.
All right. Darren Rizzi, is that who you're leaving it up to? Coach Rizzi?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not leaving it up to it. They know who they have to deal with.
Okay, very good. Last one for you, Coach Adam Gase. Jay Cutler in the broadcast booth. Now, I don't usually ask head coaches sports television questions, but that said, you've been watching TV and sports TV, I'm sure, for all your life. How good do you think a job Cutler's going to do in the booth as an analyst?
I think he'll do a good job. He's not short of comments, trust me.
Okay.
I'd be afraid if I was calling plays and he was announcing the game because I'm pretty sure he'll be very critical if it's my play calling for sure.
Okay.
And I think he'll do a great job because he'll put the time in, he'll work at it, he'll want to be good at it, and if he decided that that's what he wanted to do, you're not going to get a product out there that is going to be short in any kind of effort.
Coach, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much. Michigan and Michigan State can have a conversation of a certain length that I think we can agree was intelligent, top-notch, friendly, I would think, that leaves room for more. Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Rich.
You got it. You got it. Say hello to Mr. Ross for me. He's all over campus.
I will. I promise.
You got it. That's Adam Gase, Dolphins head coach.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, please download our app. There's lots of fun things there other than just more of the videos you just saw. You can call us from the app. You can email us from the app. Just download it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.